Hi, welcome to Beyond the Fundamentals. Today's video is called the Calvinist Announcement System. Now, what is the Calvinist Announcement System? This is my attempt to address once and for all a very real challenge in the ecosystem of theological conversation online: the endless cycle of uninformed, pre-programmed Calvinist commenters, all convinced that they're bringing insights that no one has ever heard before, even though every one of their gotcha objections has already been explained, corrected, and diffused here for years. This is not a video about individuals, it's a video about systems, information systems, psychological systems, ideological operating systems, and about why it's nearly impossible to update them. Now I'm going to break up this video into different sections. We'll start section 1 in just a second. But we did a video recently. I just released a short video called the Calvinist Viewer Disclaimer, the Calvinist Viewer Disclaimer. And it's very important for any Calvinist who's ever going to comment on this channel to watch that video first. And the reason isn't to shut down dialogue. The reason is to upgrade and update the dialogue so that it is relevant, okay? So what we have here is a currency problem. Now, we had a currency problem. We see an example of this in the New Testament in the book of Acts, in Acts 15, when they decide once and for all that you no longer have to keep the law of Moses and be circumcised in order to be saved, but then they have to write letters and disseminate them out to everybody to let them know what the deal is, okay? And so the point of that isn't to go out and argue with people. Imagine how people would react today. Going out, hey, I have this new information. This isn't how it works. This is how it works. Everybody is so locked in. They're so emotionally identified and emotionally attached to what they think is true that they can't be dissuaded. They can't be updated. They can't be corrected. There's no adult in the room that they will listen to. Okay? Everybody is disqualified because they interpret everything as a personal attack and everything must be attacked and argued, rather than just use some humility and take some updating. And so there's a dissemination problem. And it makes me think oftentimes the frustration that Paul had of not only just getting the information out, because as late as Acts 19, you still have people who have never heard of anything except the baptism of John. And so Paul has to bring them up to speed. In Acts 18, Apollos has to be brought up to speed. There's constantly people who have to be brought up to speed. And with Calvinists, all of the talking points that they front load when they engage with a non-Calvinist about Calvinism, they've all been dealt with. So all the Calvinists are out of date. They're behind the times. They don't have any arguments that haven't already been soundly refuted. They're not coming with anything new. So they don't really have valid opinions. They're just out of date. That's all they are. They're just out of date. So we have a currency problem. So if there is any validity to the Calvinist viewpoint, I legitimately want to hear it. But that legitimacy, if it exists, does not reside in all the things that they front load and all their argumentative talking points and all the presumptions that they have about you. Like they presume that everyone who disagrees with them is an Arminian. Like all that's wrong. All their stuff is wrong. Okay, so if there is any legitimacy, it's not in all the talking points that we can already predict, that we already know about, and that we can already get from literally any other Calvinist source, okay? If what you're saying, if you're a Calvinist, and what you're saying can be found in any other Calvinistic source, A.W. Pink, R.C. Sproul, John MacArthur, why are you talking? Why are you even there? Okay, the only reason I do content is because I think I have a perspective that hasn't been covered elsewhere, at least not that I know of, okay? I'm familiar with the provisionist perspective. I'm familiar with the Arminian perspective. That's not my perspective, and I'm simply sharing my perspective. If you're talking and you're just sharing someone else's perspective, stop. We've heard it all, okay? I've been a Calvinist. I actually got my theology degree from Calvinist professors at the University of Mobile. I don't need to be told the major Calvinist talking points, okay? It's not an information problem that you are going to solve, okay? So the problem, the disagreement between you and me, you being a Calvinist and me not being a Calvinist, is not a lack of information on my part. And neither is it that I hate the sovereignty of God, or I hate the doctrine of election, or I'm a natural man and I can't receive the things of the Spirit. It's none of those things, because I've already been through a phase where I've accepted the Calvinist viewpoints on all those things. Okay? So that's not the problem. Okay? So it's not an information problem. So what we have here is a currency problem. Calvinists, by and large, rank and file Calvinists who are full of spit and vinegar and want to come talk about everything, the cage stagers, all that stuff, they're just not up to date. And even the ones who are hiding their cage staginess, who have gone, all they do is go into more clever mechanisms of deception. They're just more clever about it. That's really all it is. They're a little more erudite sounding. They try to sound a little less combative and a little more mature and that kind of thing. But they're just really more clever about how many layers of deception they can lay on you. Like their position. Oh, they're the pastor now. And, oh, you just haven't been to seminary. You think I'm joking. We've had ladies on this channel who have been sent away with their little questions because if you had been to seminary, you would understand. And unfortunately, you small little ignorant plebes just don't know any better, okay? All the while not realizing that Dunning-Kruger, they're the ones who don't know any better. So it's a currency problem. So section number 1 of this video is the real problem is distribution of information. It's not information. We have the information. It's distributing it. So I want to say something that may surprise some people. I'm not frustrated because Calvinism is hard to refute. I'm actually frustrated because it's too easy to refute, and that refutation just hasn't reached market saturation. And if we just had it reach market saturation, the problem would go away. So let me explain. I already have all the information needed to correct and cure Calvinistic misunderstandings, truly. Years of research, thousands of hours of videos, countless conversations, and I've walked many Calvinists patiently, one-on-one, through their presuppositions, their blind spots, their circular framing, their intuitions, their ideological attachments. But here's the problem. No matter how much information I put out or for how long it's available, there is an endless amount of Calvinists popping up who are uneducated with the latest state of perspectival understanding. It's almost like if you're fighting a battle, like an infantry battle against another infantry, and the sea of people just keeps coming. It's not that, there's a lack of legitimacy, a lack of fair arguments. It's just that there's so many of them who think that they have the final answers, and they don't realize that I got over this more than 20 years ago. Okay, I got over my Calvinism back in 2002. Okay, so it's done. People say this problem has been going on for centuries. This debate has been going on for centuries. Well, not for me. For me, it ended in 2002. And there's plenty of other people, you can access them online, who the debate started and ended in a finite period of time. Okay? And they're no longer Calvinists. I mean, the second grade is still going on right now. It doesn't mean that we should all be second graders and that we should stop educating children. Okay? So this is a phase people are going through, and people need to come out of it. This is an information distribution problem. It's not that the solutions aren't there. It's that they can't reach the rank and file for some reason. And because of that, every time a new Calvinist stumbles onto a video, they behave as if they are the first human in history to invent the idea of dead in sin or God is sovereign. We can't have that. We need to grow out of this. Section number 2. The Calvinist scatter reaction, the scatter brain reaction is probably the better way to say it. No matter what you do, no matter what topic you comment on, their brain scatters to anything but what you just said, anything but the topic that you just mentioned. Their brain goes everywhere else. Every Calvinist commenter displays the same reflex pattern, what I call the scatter brain reaction, the scatter reaction. Instead of responding to what I actually say, they scatter into a completely unrelated verse or category. I'll say something like there's no gospel in Calvinism, and I'll explain that very thoroughly, and then they reply with, so you don't believe we're dead in sin, or Romans 9, or John 6, or God is sovereign, or you hate God choosing, or the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, or before the foundation of the world, you don't understand Calvinism, every single time. I had to stop the video in the middle of the editing process because this is such a juicy and teachable moment since I recorded this, some comments have popped in that provide a full circularity that explain exactly the problem that I'm trying to deal with here. So a few weeks ago, we made a video on Acts 13:48, and in our short on Acts 13:48, of course, someone comments just Philippians 1:29. Okay, well, we're talking about Acts 13:48. We're not talking about Philippians 1:29. We already have a long video on Philippians 1:29 from years ago, and so what I did in response to this comment, I made another video on Philippians 1:29 that's a little shorter, more concise, and then I made a short pointing to that video. So under the short that it is pointing to Philippians 1:29, of course, what comment do I get? Back to Acts 13:48. So under my video on Acts 13:48, I get a comment Philippians 1:29. Under Philippians 1:29 video, I get a comment Acts 13:48. You see the circularity there? Like, they can't stick with exactly what we're dealing with in the context in which we're dealing with it. They have this preponderance of evidence problem where they think that there's all this evidence out there. They got all these long lists of all these verses that supposedly support the tulip, and if you take one of them out, they think that there's all these others that support it. So I don't know if they're, okay, I'll give you Acts 13:48, but Philippians 1:29 or what. But like, the problem is there are no lily pads to leap to. All of your little lily pads in your whole archipelago, we've sunken them all. Your battleship has sunken. It is gone. We've taken them all away. We've got evidence. We've shown all the evidence publicly on this channel for years. All the little passages you're going to cite, they've all been refuted. There are no passages that say Calvinistic distinctives. There are certainly no passages that teach Calvinism. None of them are there, okay? And we show how in the context, none of them support Calvinism. But there's this circularity problem where if I'm talking about this passage here, they jump to all these other passages. And if I'm talking about that passage, then they jump back to the other one, like it hasn't already been refuted. And so I wish there was some kind of forcing function, some kind of forcing mechanism that would force Calvinists to realize what we've already covered, so that when they go to paste their comment or their verse reference or whatever, to realize that we've already covered it and the Calvinist perspective has already been refuted out of that, and that the scripture has been supported for what it already says. We already have content that does this. So it's just a case in point to where the Calvinist mind is this circular issue that just jumps around like a little scatterbrain. They can't stick with what's being dealt with, where it's being dealt with. They have to jump to all these other things, which is it's an illusion, because they don't realize that all that has already been refuted elsewhere. And so it's a problem. So is this circularity my problem or their problem? You know, should I go back and now make another video on Acts 13:48? Like, what's going to cause that commenter to realize that this has already been dealt with? What's going to cause them to face that? I don't know, but it's not my problem. I've posted the information. It's there, it's available, and the fact that they don't want to spend the time to watch it and become educated and become corrected, it's not my problem. It's there, it's free. Anybody can get it. So that's just another case in point of the frustration that we're dealing with the Calvinist scatterbrain and how they can't seem to focus. It's like they all have ADD in addition to being, Machiavellian, sociopathic, and narcissistic. Can't focus. I can't keep their attention on any particular one thing. So that's just another frustration. And now we will get back to the content you were already watching. Do they address the claim I'm making? Never. Not once. It's all deflection, projection, category errors, intuition level programming, and the worst part, they don't even know they're doing it, which brings us to section 3, the presumption problem. Every new Calvinist commenter assumes 3 things instantly. They think they know what I believe. They think I don't know what they believe. And they think that I am missing information that they need to provide to me. All 3 of these things are false. They assume that I am missing information. I am familiar with all their dogmas more than they are. I understand their doctrines better than they do, especially the implications of their doctrines. Many times you'll say the implications, and they'll say, there's no Calvinist that claims that. I'm not talking about Calvinist claims. I'm talking about the implications of Calvinism if you logically think it through. And of course, the inability to do critical thinking and cognitive ineptitude is a prerequisite to being a Calvinist. And I say that having been one myself. Okay? The average Calvinist does not understand Calvinism. They only understand Calvinist rhetoric. Calvinism is not their theology. It's their identity, their lens, their interpretive grid, their belonging structure. And when identity feels threatened, logic dies instantly. It's gone. It's a completely different part of the brain turns on. Their limbic system comes into play, and the prefrontal cortex is gone. It's not like they were using it in the first place. And that brings us to section 4, is the psychological element here. Calvinists consistently project the worst possible motives onto anyone who disagrees. It's projection. You just hate the sovereign God. You're spiritually dead. You're arrogant. You don't like God choosing. You worship free will. You don't understand the doctrine. You don't understand Calvinism. This is not theological argumentation. It is self-protection. It's fear-driven identity preservation. It's the inability to separate self from the ideology, or to say it another way, it's the expansion of the concept of self into the ideology, like tentacles, and then when you chop one off, they think that they're losing part of their identity, like you're chopping their arm off or something. They're going to react the same way to that as if they were physically being threatened. Their life was physically being threatened somehow. They lash out at the person rather than engaging with the content, which is why they never address what was actually said. And now we're going to go to section 5, which is the scalability crisis. Scalable, okay? If you don't know what scalable means, it simply means that you can make a whole bunch of it at one time. Like if say you want to be a nurse, okay, you can only be a good nurse to really one person at a time effectively. But if you're a software engineer, you can build the software one time, or say a video game or something, you can sell 1 million copies of it. It's very scalable. You can, like if you're a music performer, you can record the music one time, and then you can sell 1 million records. That's scalable, scalability, okay? And my problem is that distribution of the information that would bring Calvinists up to date, it is scalable in the sense that they could all be told to come watch my channel and they would all be cured, but how to get them to do that doesn't seem to be scaling very well. So here's my frustration. It's not simply scalable to address all these people individually. I'll make a video, I'll make a comment. They're not up to date with the rest of my content. So every Calvinist comes in the comment section with the same old talking points, the same misunderstandings, the same emotional reactions, the same accusations, the same projections, the same lack of context, the same refusal to read past their proof texts, the same misuse of phrases like dead in sins, the same out of context use of 1 Corinthians 2:14, the natural man, the same Lydia, Lazarus mistakes, the same stuff over and over, and they don't realize that they are literally, or the same person who quotes John 3:3 without realizing John 3:16 is just a few verses later, and not realizing what they are changing to John 3:3 over and over and over again. Happens over and over and over again. They don't realize that they are like literally the 50,000th person to say the exact same thing, which has already been refuted in the rest of the content. So like anyone new to the faith, they authentically believe that they are the first to provide you with Romans 9, not realizing that they are the 50,000th, not to realize that Romans 9 is followed by Romans 11, which contains verse 32. God hath concluded them all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all. Kind of takes the Calvinist flavor out of Romans 9:18, if you will. The problem with Calvinism as a replication system. Calvinism is not a learning system, it's a replication system. And replication systems are immune to evidence. And what we need to counteract that with is replicating the updates, what you might call the DLC, or the patches. Think of it like a Windows operating system or software on your phone. Like probably everyone has a phone, you know. Your phone needs to be updated every now and then, or the apps on your phone need to be updated with new patches, with new features, with new bug fixes, okay? Calvinism is a very outdated system that just simply needs to be updated. It's got a lot of bugs in it that it requires a lot of bug fixes, and it's just a bad piece of software. It's one way to think of it. And when you're emotionally identified with it, replication systems like that are immune to upgrade, they're immune to evidence. Okay, so no amount of evidence. People think that the Calvinists, they need this evidence, that evidence. Yeah, the evidence contradicts their system, but where a Calvinist is psychologically, it's not an evidence problem. Okay, there's lots of other factors at play, and that's one of the reasons I try to tell people over and over again, do not make these arguments for free will or for the fairness issue, or it goes against the character of God. They revel in that stuff. They think that they are superior to you for being emotionally strong enough to be able to accept those unpalatable realities about God, while you are too weak to be able to accept it. And they think, well, God has endued me with the strength and the power of his Spirit to be able to accept and be at peace with these terrible things. And you apparently don't have the peace that passes understanding because those things still bother you. You see where it's going? So you have to drill it home that their problem is that they contradict Scripture, or to say it another way, they don't believe Scripture. That's the problem. That's the one and only problem. You have to drill that home. That's a strategic thing. It's not that those other things aren't true. See, people don't hear me when I say this. Yeah, there's a fairness problem. Yeah, there's a free will problem. Yeah, there's these other problems. Okay, there's the character of God. Sure, whatever. Doesn't matter. But that is not going to do anything for a Calvinist strategically. What they need psychologically is not going to be helped with those kinds of arguments. The only thing that is going to help them, because of where they are psychologically, is to be shown that Scripture is not their authority, that they disagree with Scripture. Don't assign motives. It's not that they hate Scripture. It's not any of those things. They are just contradicting Scripture. That's it. They need to see that. They need to see that very clearly. And that is the only thing that's going to be the first little ding that's going to be the wake-up call. Wow, this contradicts Scripture. None of the other stuff is going to do it, because all those other arguments just make them feel superior to you. And that actually bolsters them, and it causes them to wrap more tightly around their superiority complex that Calvinism gives them. I am better than you. I am endowed with the fruit of the Spirit that allows me to overcome these sour emotional feelings of the natural man that just cannot stand the doctrine of election and the sovereign God choosing us. All that stuff. They revel in it. They love that. The more you argue for free will and fairness and the character of God, the more they dig in. The more it's reaffirming to them that all you have is emotional arguments and they have the Bible. It just reinforces them. So stop doing that. So I did get a tad sidetracked there. So let's go on to section 6, which is the need for some kind of filter or preloading system. Yes. If they're going to come comment on my channel. This brings us to the central concept of today's video, the Calvinist Announcement System. In my notes, I wrote, I need some mechanism by which Calvinists cannot comment or reach me until they are up to speed, or some mechanism to get all of them up to speed fast. I want to get them up to speed. Actually, when people challenge me to a debate, I try to find ways to deter them from this, because I don't want to sit there and listen to them say all the things that I know they're going to say and then give all the refutations that are already available for free on my channel. So I try to deter them by offering, I'll debate you, but it's going to cost you $5,000 per hour if you want a public debate. And that has seemed to work. Of course, they fire back with all kinds of moralistic arguments. I'm morally evil for valuing my time, you see. I've already spent the time. The fact that you haven't spent the time to go through the content is your problem. If you want me to spend my time again, you need to compensate for it. Okay, you need to compensate. That time needs to be compensated monetarily, because I've already spent the time. You can go spend the time right now. You don't have to wait for a debate. You can be corrected by all the information that's already online right now. You don't have to do it in front of people. You don't have to take somebody else's audience and do it. You don't have to make a show of it. Just go be corrected. If you were really earnestly interested in the truth, you would be corrected from the time I've already spent and the content that's already available online, and you wouldn't need to come have me tutor you in public in front of people. Okay? You don't want information. You don't want truth. You want a show. You see? You want attention. You want something other than the truth. The truth's already available. It's already available for free. You don't want to spend the money? You don't have to. See, that's the beauty of it. It's already available for free. You go watch it right now. It's just that I've invested my time already and you haven't. That's the difference between us. Okay? And I'm familiar with the Calvinist side. You are not familiar with my side. So sometimes when it comes to these people, what I'm thinking about doing is asking them this. Okay, I want you to list 10 perspectives that I hold, not Arminianism, not provisionism, nothing like that, but 10 perspectives that I hold that you disagree with. And then, and if I agree, if you can steel man me properly and actually write my perspectives in a way that I would agree to, yes, I do have that perspective, 10 of them. And then you write 10 contrary statements to them, and they are not things that I have already heard, I will debate you. I thought about doing something like that too. Probably, I mean, it'll still cost you, but because, the time still needs to be compensated. So my proposal is, before any Calvinist comment, okay, back off the debate thing. That's just an aside. But about this getting everyone up to speed thing, okay, I need some kind of mechanism by which Calvinists cannot comment or reach me until they are up to speed, or some mechanism to get all of them up to speed fast. So here's my proposal. Before any Calvinist comments on any BTF video, they must read or watch the Calvinist viewer disclaimer. It would eliminate almost all uninformed comments if they would mind the disclaimer. And I probably you could expand that disclaimer to, there's the disclaimer video that I just put out. I think it's 2 minutes long, and it's really fast. I'm like talking really fast through the whole thing. So it's 2 minutes. It's impossible to include all the standard talking points that keep getting parroted since, Calvinism was invented or repopularized by Calvin. It was invented by Manny and then brought into Christianity by Augustine. I have videos on all this stuff. And then repopularized kind of by Luther, but really the name of it with John Calvin later, the wrong JC that many people worship. So the disclaimer that I have out there already says Beyond the Fundamentals does not promote Arminianism, provisionism, Pelagianism, blah, blah, blah. We support biblical predestination, election, while rejecting Gnostic and Augustinian distortions of these things. We do not hold free will as an axiomatic premise. We already say all this stuff. If Calvinists just absorbed the disclaimer that we already have out there, it would immediately shut down every false accusation, every category error, the mismapping attempts, the you worship free will projections, the false dichotomies, all it was shut down 90% of the time wasters that they front load on what they say. But the truth is, they won't read it, they won't listen to it, they won't absorb it. I wish there was some kind of mechanism on YouTube where they had to pass a quiz or something before they could get through and put comments in. I guess I could limit comments, but I'd have to limit it. I have to have some kind of membership and make people pay and that kind of stuff. And how are we going to do this? So, but the problem is not information. The problem is identity. They are identified. You'll hear them say, "I am a Calvinist." Well, that's a narcissistic aggrandizement. You are not a Calvinist. Okay. And if you're a provisionist, you're not a provisionist. If you're Arminian, you're not an Arminian. Okay. If you die today, Calvinism and provisionism will still be there. If Calvinism and provisionism were to suddenly disappear and go away like they never existed, just somehow die right now, you would still be fine. You'd be fine without those. You could still do your job. Well, maybe some of you couldn't. But you can, the grocery stores will still be there, okay? The sun will still rise. The sky will still be blue. It'll be fine. You're going to be okay, okay? You are not it. It is not you. Stop identifying yourself with these stupid systems. That's not you. So section 7, what this video is all actually about, okay? This video is not about Calvinists as people. I care deeply about individuals trapped in the system. I've helped many of them, and it's been beautiful to watch them come to life. This is about the unscalable nature of theological rehabilitation. It's about the information distribution problem, not the lack of information. It's about the fact that the ideological operating system of Calvinism prevents its followers from hearing what is plainly said, directly explained, or inductively demonstrated. And speaking of the programming problem, be sure to watch our video titled "This Changes Everything: Escape Your Unconscious Programming." That is a longer video, but it is also a prerequisite for people to understand the unconscious programmings you're operating by. I'm not just talking about Calvinists here. I'm talking about pretty much everybody in Western society. And if you're an evangelical, you have even more unconscious programmings on top of you that you don't realize you have. And if in whatever flavor of evangelical you are, if you're Calvinist or Provisionist or Arminian or whatever, then you have even more. You have some layers and levels of unconscious programming that are bespoke to that system. So in that video, I go into what some of these are at a more generic level, the ones really that affect everybody in the society. But hopefully some of you who are more astute can extrapolate from that things that will more specifically apply to you. So the Calvinist Announcement System could be something like this. Before entering the conversation, please know that every one of your objections has been addressed, every argument anticipated, every proof text examined, every category error identified, every misuse corrected, every projection understood, and everything you're about to say has already been answered, not because you're stupid, but because the system you inherited has taught you to repeat rather than to observe. It taught you to assert rather than to inquire. It taught you to defend rather than to discover. So if you're ready for discovery, if you're ready to actually look at the text, this channel will welcome you with open arms. And if not, then the announcement system has done its job. Stay away until you're ready, until you get up to date. We are up to date. You are not, okay? Don't waste our time. We've already spent all of our time addressing everything you've said, probably before you even learned it in most cases these days. We've been making these videos, I think, since 2013 my first one came out, and we had a pretty good amount of them out by 2017 and kept making them. We've had everything that you probably, if you're a Calvinist now, especially if you're young, we probably refuted everything you want to say before you even learned it. You see? That's how out of date you are. One time I learned about string theory, and I thought that it was pretty cool. I thought I was learning something new, and I didn't learn till like a year and a half later that string theory had fallen out of, common approval in the scientific community for like the last decade and a half. I didn't know. Okay. And that's kind of where Calvinists are. They think they're on the up. Oh, look at this new fresh stuff and we're on the cutting edge and we got the things, and you don't. Okay. So that's the announcement system. But I want to ask a favor. I want to ask a favor of former Calvinists and current Calvinists. Okay. So let me say this. This is the last tag, last part of this video. Let me say this directly to those of you who have already come out of Calvinism. I need your help. This burden of educating every new wave of Calvinists is fundamentally not scalable, and I cannot personally walk every single person through the process of unlearning the old categories, reframing their intuitions, and relearning how to engage with Scripture inductively instead of ideologically. Those of you who have been through the process, who know firsthand how blinding the system can be, please help shoulder this load. Model curiosity, model humility, model charitable engagement. Teach others how to ask questions rather than assume conclusions. And if there happen to be any Calvinists out there who aren't interactively terrible, now it's like rare. I mean, 99% of Calvinists give the rest of them a bad name. So if you're one of those 1%, I do mean one of the rare 1%ers whose character doesn't immediately get steamrolled by the system's rivalry structure, then I genuinely invite you to help bring the rest of your Calvinistic community up to date. Help them leave behind the outdated rhetoric, the tired talking points, and the categorical misframings that make the productive dialogue impossible. So help them learn to participate in real conversation, not ideological recitation and projection. So that's the end of the video for today. If you like the stuff that you're getting on this channel and you want to hear more of it, I invite you to support the channel. There are 5 different electronic ways that you can contribute or donate to this channel. Every little bit that you contribute very much matters. It takes a lot of time, space, resources, energy, money, software, hardware to bring this content to you. As a matter of fact, I'm spending time away from my wife, who is eagerly awaiting for me right now, just to bring you this content. So if you appreciate it, please consider contributing to the cause. Every little bit counts. One day we are going to go full time with this, and I would like you to be a part of that. Can't do that without your help. So please consider doing that. Everyone else, thanks for watching. May the Lord bless you, and good day.